Saints announced they've re-signed veteran offensive lineman Patrick Omameh. Passing, but just a thought there on re-signing Patrick?
Man, give me all the linemen I can get.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. You've heard me throughout these years. And Patrick came in last year and saw some work at the tackle position, has played some guard. So, yeah, I need depth there. Something's going to happen. He's going to play somewhere during the season. And so, no, that didn't surprise me one bit. They brought him back. And, again, it's part of a trend you see with Sean, getting linemen that are multiple position players that can play tackle and guard. There aren't a lot of those type of guys out there that got their hand up in the air and said, "Hey, I'm available. Come get me." And look who he signed in free agency after the draft. Virtually every one of those linemen have played multiple spots. Like Adrian McGee has played the guard position, played left tackle.
Yep.
You see it. The kid from Oregon, same way. He's played guard, tackle, and center. So, and he's the only guy in the FCS history to start 4 spots in 1 year. Now, that's difficult. That is real difficult. The big Throck, man, he one thing is, you got to be a sharp cat to do that. I mean, listen, you ain't getting in with the expired driver's license. You got to know what you're doing. When they put you in there and you know who's the quarterback, I mean, he's your star, and Justin Herbert, and they're a run-oriented football team. People always think that Oregon is this pass-happy team. If you watched them the last 2 years under that head coach, yeah, they throw the football, but I know what they're all about. They want to beat you up. They want to hit you in the mouth and run the football. That's their deal. They're a little bit different than most Pac-12 teams. Utah is somewhat similar in that they want to run the football too, but it is part of the trend that you see with the Saints of signing these multiple position guys that can swing, and I think that's probably going to be the big question mark as we get into whatever form of training camp happens, is what happens at the center guard position. Because for me, Ruiz is a natural at center, but do you want to put him there in 2020? It would be 2 straight years you've given the quarterback, Drew Brees, a new rookie center. And it's not so much about the center-quarterback exchange. It's about working with the other 4 guys, the timing that goes with that. And we saw it in training camp last year. I remember telling you the story. I was standing right in front, and you could see Drew barking out the count. Next thing you know, man, Teron Armstead and Peter up the field 2 yards, and McCoy's still holding the ball. They hadn't got that timing issue down yet. That got better, and I thought McCoy did a good job. And I think eventually what you'll see is, now, does it happen in 2020? I don't know. I think McCoy will be swung over to the right guard position, and Ruiz will take over the center spot. But does that happen this year?
Yeah.
And you do have a guy in Nick Easton, another multiple position player who has started in this league at both center guard, that you can sort of hang your hat on also.
Mike, I want to ask you, I get asked a bunch about free agents in this second wave of free agency and who the Saints might target. And because I'm getting sick of people asking me, I figure let me just ask you.
So you're going to ask me?
I am going to ask you because you know way better than I do about this sort of stuff. So there's like it's like corner, linebacker, running back is what people tend to ask about. So there's some big names. Like let's look at cornerback with guys like Logan Ryan is the big name out there. Is that even a realistic possibility for New Orleans?
It depends on what Logan wants. A big reason why he's not with the Titans was salary. Bottom line, what he wants to get paid. There's been a lot of conjecture with him and the Jets, and they would be willing to pay something close to what he wants. But, Logan's a solid player in this league, but, they were looking to get better. And so, again, it's what are you willing to spend for? I do believe this. The money created with the release of Larry Wolford, I think is the pretext to what you're going to see somewhere in the next few weeks to months, in that they're going to come up with a long-term deal with Alvin Kamara. I think that's the basis of that you want to take care of it, and he's a guy Sean wants on this team. He's a big part of it as a runner and a receiver, and I think they want to use that money to secure Alvin, knowing what you got down the line. And you're going to have some decisions to make on what do you do with Sheldon Rankins? What do you're going to have to pay up a bunch of money for Ryan Ramczyk. You're going to have to pay a lot of money to Marshawn Lattimore. So are you going to willing to spend a ton of money on a rent player for a year? Now, if he's coming in here at a good price, I'm willing to take him in. The second part of that is I think that, like every other team in the NFL, nobody has enough depth at corner. None. We had this discussion for 3 days on draft coverage. Okay, hypothetically, you can say, okay, I got my starters and Jack Rabbit on one side and Marshawn on the other. Okay, so Jenkins and Lattimore are your starters. You bring back Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams. Okay, you haven't taken a snap in a practice yet. What happens if somebody gets hurt? Yeah. You play 4 cornerbacks every game. So don't tell me about all the depth that you have because you have 2 guys that were back from last year. I think, Sean, knowing the limitations to the training camp period and everything else, I think would be willing, and I think that's where he would lean to try to bring in a veteran corner. If it's an Eli Apple, if it's a Logan Ryan, Tremaine Johnson, who was with the Jets, who the Saints had a lot of interest in a few years back, and he's been a bit of certainly a disappointment for the Jets for what they paid him for. I think they would go that route toward a veteran corner, but he's not good. They're not going to pay you, what you're asking for. And what leverage do you have right now? Logan Ryan might have a little leverage because he might have a few teams after him. There aren't a ton of teams lined up for the other guys.
Yeah.
Either that or they'd have been signed by now. This isn't Jadeveon Clowney. And that's the other name I get thrown out all the time. Man, how are you going to pay Jadeveon Clowney for what he wants? He turned down a deal that would average him about $15 million a year. He turned it down. Okay, so you figure out how they're going to make that work with the Saints, okay? Because he knows what he can get on a deal with Seattle. He knows what he can get on a deal with the Titans. Is he going to sort of wait this out a little bit and see if someone blinks? We'll wait and see. Everson Griffin's another name that gets thrown out there quite a bit.
That's the other one I get all the time. I had it written down.
Sean knows a lot about Griffin, having played him, and also, too, you got to know the connection, that he is as close to Mike Zimmer as anybody in the league. I mean, they were together on the staff with Bill Parcells, where Sean was the offensive coordinator and Mike was the defensive coordinator under Bill. So they know one another. And it's been well documented, the issues that Griffin has had. And, you just hope, things are well for him. He is still a really good football player. All I know is you put that game tape on that last game the Saints played against the Vikings, and, man, they kicked him inside to go up, up against Wolford. And, man, he can still play in this league. And you understand that when you take on somebody that's got some problems, you also take on his problems. Do you want that? Are you willing to say, okay, I'm going to throw all that away, what we've got here, to do that? I don't know what type of money Griffin is looking for at this stage of the game. Or does he want to play on a championship? He was on a championship-type team. They had a lot of talent and could have made it there. Is that a big part of his signing? That part I don't know. But I've been asked about Everson quite a bit. Is he a talented player? Yes. Could he help this football team? Yes. He can help any of the teams in the NFL. Why did the Vikings get rid of him?
It's a great question.
Money was one part of it. You look at that salary was one of it. And I think, Mike made the decision. I don't want this distraction anymore. That comes to a point, I think, when you do business, and that's what the NFL is. How much distraction are you willing to put up with? And even some of the Vikings personnel hierarchy had a little meeting with us before the Saints-Vikings game and said, we don't want to use the term rebuild, but we're going to reload this team. And look all the draft choices they had. They had a ton of picks. And so you could see where they're going with this and trying to maybe jettison some veteran players who they think are maybe at the end of the rope football-wise. And I don't want to pay them that much, and maybe there's some distraction there. I would be surprised if they signed a high-price defensive end.
Okay.
I think it's more corner, Matt, than anything. I think it's cornerback, because I do think that's an issue for every team that when you look at it today, you might have a couple guys, but an injury is going to happen, and I want more depth and more talent. Am I willing to put a rookie out there, in late December or January? Am I going to be willing to do that? No, I think Sean's deal is, get me the veteran that can come in here and help me.
Mike D, the LSU Tigers lost 4 of their top 6 linemen. But they also, as Steve Ensminger laid out there, have a lot of guys back with a lot of experience. So for you, where's the bigger question? Is it inside or is it at tackle?
Oh, it's in the interior. Okay, you got some experience with Ingram, and he did play some last year. But didn't we all thought when he came in, he's the starter?
Yeah.
And Adrian McGee said, "Hey, somebody didn't give me that memo on that. Hey, you ain't no starter. You gotta wait your turn." And Adrian really played well last year. People don't give him as much credit as you should, because remember when the suspensions happened, then he swung over to left tackle.
Yep.
He took Sadiq Charles's place, and this machine kept rolling the entire time. So I'm always concerned more with the interior. I agree with Slinger that, okay, you got an experienced right tackle in Austin. He's going to take care of that. Rosenthal has saw some playing time at the left tackle position. You don't have much depth there. That is probably, I would think, his biggest concern, and why there's nothing you could have done about it, but to have Cameron Warr and Thomas Perry get some snaps in the spring, if you'd have had that, that's what you'd have wanted to get them a little bit of experience there. But, okay, the center position. Okay, Hines, now, you not only are the starting center, you got to make the calls. People don't realize that's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
And to make those calls up front. And last year, Lloyd's a great leader, and he saw it, and he could communicate very, very well with the other linemen. But he also had an experienced quarterback in Joe Burrow that could see it too and could tell you, hey, Lloyd, watch on this part. And he had an experienced running back that could pick up that inside blitz. I'll give you the question. I know this is your show, but I'm going to ask you one. Because I know you cover the SEC as well as anybody. And listen, I give you credit on that part. Name me the big-time pass rusher off the edge in the SEC. Who's the best one today? Not two, just one. That long pause tells you the story. And it's what I've said on your show and others. I wrote a column about it 3 years ago. I could see it. You go to these camps today, and they'll say, okay, defensive tackles go here. And that's a pretty large group.
Mm-hmm.
Linebackers go here, pretty large group. Defensive ends go over here. And I'm waiting. The numbers aren't there. I'm still waiting for them to show up.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we're about to get to that too. Okay,
so here's the thing. Last year's draft, how many pass rushers, edge guys in round one? It's a needed position in the NFL.
I mean, Mike, you're right. The fact that Chasson sat there into the 20s is evidence of that.
Okay, so Calevon goes 20 and Chase goes 2.
Yeah.
The next guy's in the 40s. Okay. And
where did they go, Mike? Where did they go?
They all play in receiver and tight end. And because I ask them, you see this big Sophomore Junior, and I ask them, where are you playing? You playing on defense? Oh, no, sir. I'll play flex tight end. I'm playing receiver. So you don't play? No, I did as a freshman, but I don't play that no more. I'm playing on offense, pitch and catch. 7-on-7 changed the world. And now all these big athletic guys that 10 years ago or 12 years ago, some of them would have been playing on defense, they all catching the ball today. What you got a glut of? Look, all the receivers out there. Look, LSU loses. Would they lose that receiver in a guy like Justin Jefferson, who was a tremendous football player? Okay, look what you got coming back. Jamar Chase, who's the top receiver in college football. You got Terrace Marshall, who I think is an outstanding player if he can stay healthy. And I think Racing McMath is going to be your breakout guy. Because you know what? He ain't never going to see double coverage. It's him and another guy. Man, all that double coverage is on the other guy. I ain't seeing it. And so you can see the sea change now happening. They still have defensive tackles out there, but the edge guys aren't coming out. They're playing another position. So if you're the recruiting coordinator at LSU or at Oklahoma or Florida, you know what? Man, where I'm going to get all that pressure is right up the middle. It's not always off the edge. This isn't football of 10 years ago or 12 years ago. It's changed because the personnel changed it for you. All those guys aren't playing defensive end and outside linebacker anymore. But I can find those interior guys. Man, you look at the two guys like Tarek Brown and Kinlaw. Look at those two guys. Man, you want them off the team bus first.
Yeah.
Marlon Davidson played defensive end at Auburn, but come on, all of us knew, that was a promise made, promise kept. I'm going to play. He was much better off as an interior player, but he wanted to play defensive end. Matt, I think you see the sea change now more and more, and the NFL draft is telling you now it's leaking into the NFL. I'm going to ask you the second question. Who's the best pass rusher in college football today? And I'm not want to compare him to the Bosa brothers or compare him to Chase. Give me the guy, the best pass rusher in 2020. That pause tells you the answer. Gregory Rousseau has a chance to be that player at Miami.
This year was easy with a guy like Chase at Ohio State.
And
Chase
Bosa,
Young, yeah.
and Bosa.
Sometimes you got that guy. Mike, my answer for last year, after having seen him in 2018, was Jabari Zuniga at Florida. I thought was awesome. And then we knew Chasson had a chance, coming off the injury. But to your point, you're right. You're right. There's not a glut of them that you have to worry about. Yeah.
It's not even a question of glut. Yeah. It's a question of filling it in. I can find a guy, and maybe Ali Gay's that guy, and maybe BJ's that guy. I don't know. We haven't seen him play in a game yet. Justin Thomas, we'll see how that works out. McClendon, we haven't seen him play defensive end. So, and he's gotten high marks, and we've heard Coach O, sort of brag about him a little bit. But, again, we don't know that. Again, you can see where it's coming from. So my recruiting's got to be this. I got to shore up the middle, center guard, and I got to get depth there. And I can fill in on the edges. It's not like years ago you build from the outside in. Now you got to build from the inside out. Because, again, where it's going to come from is right up the chute, those defensive tackles, and you see more and more of these hybrid systems where they shoot that middle linebacker in a little bit of a delay or that safety in a little bit of a delay right up the middle. You got to pick that up. That center's not sharp enough to pick him up, or that running back, he gets mowed over, just like tall grass. He gets cut down. Man, that's all it is. And so it's the sea change you're seeing, and it's the biggest concern for LSU. And just the way Slinger answered it, you cut kind of part of it off was offensive line's a concern. That was his first comment, and he sort of yelled it. Yeah, offensive line's a concern. And he also told you something when whoever he was talking to in the background, and they brought up Shanahan's name, and he quickly dismissed it. In that interview, he brings
the transfer from Harvard, for those who don't know.
From Harvard, Lee and Shanahan, he sort of dismissed it because he sees what I see. He's a tackle. He's not a guard in the SEC. He's a tackle. So, you want that big, bulky guy that can road grade for you when you need it, but also you going up against some big monsters in that middle that they still have. Who are the recruits everybody wants to see from LSU? Isn't it Guillory and Roy?
Yeah.
Don't you want to see those guys?
Mike, you know what, Mike, though? I feel a lot better about this because I like the bodies that LSU has on the interior. I'm definitely afraid of what they're going to be at left tackle because Dare Rosenthal played, but he wasn't great when he played, which is why when they got into conference games, why they kicked McGee to left tackle instead of playing Dare when Sadiq was out.
I think, though, when you look at it, I think you can always help the left tackle. That's a pickup deal, too.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a running back that can help you now. But that's also a pickup thing. And the way LSU gets rid of the football so quickly, you saw it with Burrow. And even when Miles played last year, he was getting rid of the football fast. That's not going to change. My thing is always about timing in the middle. It's the same sort of thing what's happening with the Saints. When you draft a center, and you're not sure, you have no OTAs, no rookie camps, nothing with him other than, you can do it on Zoom or whatever. So where is he going to get the experience of timing himself with the two guards? That's to me, the big question mark at LSU is to get that timing down. The other thing, too, is the picking up the blitz. Because, man, losing Lloyd is huge, but also what Clyde could do. Clyde could pick that up. He'd see that guy coming in late, and he'd pick him up, and he'd wheelbarrow him before he got to Burrow. So that to me is the biggest concern. I think Rosenthal is going to be fine at left tackle. I don't think that's going to be the issue. I think it's the timing of the offensive linemen, but in particular, the center guards getting that down. Because we know Detillier, he's going to be okay at that right tackle position. It's going to be the center guard spots that are something to watch, especially early in the season, where if you're going to have some misgivings or miss-offs, I should say, that's where it's going to happen.
Thoughts on Corey Kiner? It's not often, Mike, that we see LSU go into Ohio to get a player. They did it with Spencer Ware about 10 years ago at running back, and now they've done it with Corey Kiner. What do you know about Corey?
First time I saw him, and it didn't take me long. I stopped the tape after 4 runs, and I wrote on. I'm old school, so I still write on the yellow pad.
Okay.
But it's easy comparison. Josh Jacobs, former Alabama running back. He reminds me a lot of Josh coming out of McLean High School in Oklahoma. They're built along the same lines. He's low-slung, high forward lean runner, really good body balance, real physical in that, sometimes he doesn't avoid the miss. I mean, he tries to just flat out run you over. He's got enough speed to get to the edge and hit the big play, catches the ball well coming out of the backfield. It's an easy comparison, real easy. His rushing style is very similar to Josh Jacobs when he came out of McLean High School in Oklahoma and went to Alabama. Now, we all know the story with Josh. Josh got to be a 220-pound running back, and with the nutritional program. And Josh had a really tough early childhood and everything, and that's all been documented with him. I think what you got here is a guy that's similar. I think not how he grew up, but I think similar rushing style, build, what he can do good and what he can't do good. But, man, he's a load, and he is very much along the lines of Josh Jacobs. And if that's the case, you got yourself something there. But that's immediately after 4 watches, and I always will write it, it was Josh Jacobs. It's an easy comparison.
Mike Detillier is with us. So LSU picks up Corey Kiner, 4-star running back out of Ohio as they continue to build the 2021 class. But Mike, the 2020 season is staring us in the face. We hope that we all see it play out, but and hopefully on time. But we talked offense in the last segment. Flip it over. Where are you most interested in seeing LSU's development defensively in 2020, especially with a new defensive coordinator?
It would be at cornerback. And, okay, you got the stud. I mean, he is who he is. He's the best in college football in Derek Stingley. And so you got him on one side. Cordell Flott saw a lot of playing time late last year. And so you would expect that he's going to be a big part of this. Now, he's a long, tall, drink-of-water corner. So physically, I'm interested to see how well he's developed there, going up against some really big receivers. But boy, can he cover, and he's got that length that you want. The other guy's Jay Ward, who's built along the same lines as Cardale is. So here's the thing in college football. It's just like the pros. 80% of the time, you are out of base defense. You're playing nickel or dime 80% of the time. It's not about 2 corners. It's not about 3 corners. It's 4 corners. And what if you got an injury? That's going to be things. So my thing is, I think LSU's going to be fine up front along defensive line. You got some depth there. You got some young talent. I'm interested certainly in watching McClendon and Thomas at the end positions. You got a big-time player in Tyler Shelvin in the middle. The linebacking core, Edge raved about Damone Clark last year and has spoke about him again. And then you bring in a guy that he could be playing in the NFL today, and that's Jabril Cox. I mean, this is a guy that he ain't no typical transfer. I've seen people, he's like one of these guys that's going to be a back. He ain't backing up nothing. He's a starter. He might back up the Brinks truck after the end of the season, but he ain't backing up nobody at LSU. He's a starter there. The concern for me is, I would say the most intriguing thing for me is the development of the young corners, because you now are watching a different world of football where you're slinging it around. Now, Alabama's got a little bit of experience at quarterback. You got now a sophomore at Auburn who's got to be better throwing it than what he was a year ago. Kellen Mond, we see the sort of roller coaster with him. Toughest game, Gainesville, Florida. Man, people, you can throw all these other games out there. To me, if somebody said, show me the toughest game, Florida, in Gainesville. They got an experienced quarterback. Now, I can't tell you what's going to happen as far as on the defensive side of football with them, but I know one thing, that guy's pretty doggone good throwing the ball, and he's accurate, and he makes the good decisions throwing it downfield and trash. So you can see that some of them's got the experience there at quarterback, and some of them don't. And who are the teams that, if you're looking as a team that might make a run at it, aren't teams saying maybe this is Florida's best chance to catch Georgia? Now,
I think
I think Georgia's got Newman coming in from Wake Forest, who's a good player, but he's been highly erratic at Wake Forest also. And, did Jake Fromm light it up at Georgia in big games?
Nope.
He ain't done squat. And I know against LSU, he ain't, that's for sure. And so Georgia's recruited well. How they develop their talent, man, is I think that's something Kirby's got to get better at. Like any coach, you got to get better at. And then maybe that's some changes in his staff that he had to make, that he did make, could do it. I think this is Florida's best chance because of what they have at at quarterback, and also too, you catch LSU at home, where I think that's one of the best, most underrated rivalry games in the SEC, LSU-Florida. And you watch how those games have kind of transpired over the last few years. It's really been great watch games, really has. And for 3 quarters, Florida went toe-to-toe with LSU.
Yep.
They went. Now, again, in the fourth quarter, it came undone. But to me, I think that's something to watch. And so that's where you're going to need the corners. You're going to need the coverage people. So it's the development of those younger guys. Now, Flott's got the most experience of the freshmen that came in with Rodarius and Jay Ward and him. I want to see that development there. And who's going to be the weak link in the chain? We saw it early. It was Kerry Vincent. They went after Kerry in the slot. And so would I. I mean, I'm not picking on Fulton, and I'm not picking on Stingley, so I'm throwing the ball there. And then LSU gave a little bit of coverage help to him and sort of helped that out. You're going to see it a little bit different. I think Pelini's going to be a little bit, more aggressive than what Aranda was, getting after the quarterback. And that also helps your secondary. But I think as a development of the corners, it's similar to what we see the sea change offensively. Now, it's not just about starters at corner. It's about the depth because now you got a nickel, you got a dime guy. So you need 4, and what happens if somebody gets hurt? I need a 5th.
Yeah.
And so how quickly Elias Ricks can come in here, and also I think is intriguing for me because you talk to the people out west, and having watched him, he wasn't challenged much, and I don't blame him. Man, I see him on once. I ain't throwing the ball there, but in the SEC, guess what? You freshman, I'm going after you. How well you handle that mentally, because that's what they want to do. So it would be at the cornerback position, and I think that's what you are seeing in college football today, the changes and how it bleeds into the NFL. The cornerback position, it's plural today. Offensive guard, center, it's plural today. It's it's not your grandpa's football anymore. It's totally changed.
First question out the chute says, how good is T.K. McClendon? He was mentioned yesterday by Pelini as a guy who's starting at end, penciled in.
Well, I haven't seen him play defensive end.
Right.
Only thing I can say, when they're going to write the story on TK, the guy that actually really lobbied Ed to put him to defensive end is John Robinson. JR told him, listen, he should be playing on defense, and he shouldn't be playing tight end, and they moved him there. He's got a chance. Now, you listen to Ed talk about him, and also Bill Johnson has spoke about him highly, about his athleticism, his long arms, his ability to get up the field. What I'm most interested in is a guy that I think is going through in the stages how well he plays the run. Because you know what? I think I can teach him a few pass rush moves to get up the field. Once they got those big guys that grab a hold of you to kind of take it and get away from them, that's going to be the big thing about McClendon. But, man, all I can say is Ed does not talk about a lot of people in the highest terms, and he's talked about TK really a lot. So that does tell you a little bit.
Shelby Kelly on Facebook asked Mike, what are the odds LSU lands Coleman and Mason Smith? Of course, Mike, you've been telling me about Mason Smith for just 2 years now.
Yeah, I put a picture up 2 years ago and said, this is what a defensive tackle looks like. He's just a kid, and man, I think Mason goes to LSU. I'm convinced of that. I know he'll play this out, but he's the best big man athlete I have ever seen on the Bayou. I didn't say football player, big man athlete, because he's just sort of a puppy learning to play football. But man, is he something! And he's a special talent, real sharp young man too. And so I think he goes to LSU. Who was the other one?
It said Coleman. Didn't leave a first name. I don't know who that is.
Okay.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on. This is Jeff. Ask Mike, how much are the Saints going to have to pay Ramczyk and Lattimore?
Oh, goodness. When it's all going to be said and done, Ramczyk is going to be the highest paid right tackle in the history of the game when they pay him. And, that part, I'm really not sure what that means. But all I know is them big guys getting paid today.
Yeah.
They're getting paid a lot. And Lattimore, I think, you're going to have to gauge it off of what some of the other top corners are getting. And you can make a pretty strong argument. He's one of the top 5 in this league. And so whoever's going to be the top contract at that time, that's who you're going to go after. I think Ramczyk, he's going to break the ceiling on any right tackle. He's the best in the game at the right tackle position, and he's going to get paid huge. So that tells you when you got a little bit of money, why wouldn't you keep the guys that you have? Yeah. You can say, trade them away. Yeah, find me the next Ryan Ramczyk. Find me the next Lattimore. It's easy to do, on fantasy football, but in the real world, it ain't that quite that easy.
Here's one on Twitter from Charlie at CEvans12 NOLA. Ask Mike, is it just me, or are the Saints putting a lot of faith in Alex Anzalone?
They're putting a lot of faith in him. And listen, I think Alex is a really good football player. The problem has been from late in his high school career to Florida to now, keeping him healthy.
Yeah.
And so that's a big question mark. And it's the shoulder, and that's something that's given him issues in the past. But he nailed it. They are putting a lot of it in there because right off the bat you can see that they're going to put Zach outside. He's going to be the strong side linebacker, and you know who's on the other side, and Davis. And they're counting on Alex to stay healthy, and hopefully, Kiko Alonso can give you some help there. But again, too, you go back to the injury issue with Kiko.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question, though. Really good.
Ask Mike, does Austin Carr make the Saints?
No, I don't think he makes it this year.
Ask Mike, we talked about this a little earlier in the hour. We got about a minute left. Free agents that the Saints might be able to score on the cheap.
Ain't nothing on the cheap.
It's all relative, Mike.
Yeah, it's relative. I get it. But no, I would think cornerback is going to be the spot where if they're going to spend money other than Alvin, that's where it's going to come into play here. And who's going to be available? What's interesting, they had a good relationship with Eli Apple. Even though when he first sort of signed with the Raiders and then it bulked down, the Saints had spoke to Eli. I would not be surprised they try to bring him back on a 1-year deal.
He's Mike Detillier. He's on Twitter at Mike Detillier, SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com, part of the Saints News Network at SI.com. You can check out all of Mike's work, and, of course, he's with us every Thursday here in hour 2. Mike D, you the man. We appreciate you as always, man. Have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you, Matthew.